Coming up, we have maximizing ROI in a virtual world. This comes to us from an award-winning director and digital designer who bridges the gap between art and technology to create exceptional digital campaigns for Fortune 500 clients, NGOs, and more. He's also going to be available in rooms following his session. Please welcome Raymond McCarthy-Bergeron, Digital Experience Director at Envision Communications.
Hey everyone. It's amazing to actually see that stage. It's impressive. I'm actually really thrilled to see that it's actually being utilized to its full effect too. So again, I'm Ray McCarthy-Bergeron. I'm the Digital Experience Director at Envision. And here I'm going to be talking about maximizing ROI in the virtual environment. The first thing I wanted to do is kind of like bring a little bit of context to my background and what Envision does. And so what we do is that we've been doing quite a bit since 2020, as I'm sure all of you have. We've been creating well over 100 plus full digital experiences for various clients. A multitude of them extend beyond just something that, is a Zoom experience, as we have now executed on more than 20 plus digital platforms, crafting fully interactive experiences. And we don't specifically align with a particular platform, as we have a technology agnostic approach to events. And that has really helped us tailor experiences for our clients' audiences and needs. And honestly, it would be a lie if I didn't have a few favorites, because especially honestly, after an exhaustive list of 230 plus platforms research, that's about 2 platforms a week. And it continues to grow. And of course, as we continue to craft meaningful audience engagements globally, we execute well over 200 projects annually. Which leads me to this question. What's your biggest investment challenge? Some platforms don't meet all the needs because they're not streamlined. Things like Zuddle is actually providing us a much more integrated ecosystem, and we'll discuss a little bit more of that shortly. So here we are. If there's anything that I've learned over 20 years of working in creative and tech, it's that change is the only constant. Over the past year, we witnessed an incredible evolution of products offered by companies to utilize incredible technologies. Also, we've seen companies who didn't foster and embrace change. They didn't embrace digital and specifically, and of course they struggled quite a bit. And when the foundation of how work was conducted shifted, they were very difficult to pivot in this kind of new ecosystem that we're a part of. So with many people working from home, and we all desperately needed to communicate, to work, and to be connected with friends and family, we've seen and observed forced innovation, which is why virtual and hybrid will be the new norm. Some technologies will some technology, honestly, that have existed for the past decade and have had very, very little use are now powerhouses of engagement because the infrastructure and people are finally here to fully utilize them. We also know that some of these technologies were slower to move with the markets. And so now actually we're seeing new platforms, again, like Zuddle and others, emerge within the past year alone, causing incredible disruptive innovation. With people understanding how to interface with the camera and mic, everyone can now easily connect. Thanks to various large companies investing in employees, people have supersized their home offices, giving them flexibility to have ad hoc meetings globally and to collaborate in a digital ecosystem of sorts. And as you can imagine, this highly connected audience will continue to grow as our paradigms shift. So as many of you probably are aware, over the past year, we have been in an incredible forced change and shift. We've seen and have been tracking magnitudes of events to see how various industry leaders were doing. And here I wanted to highlight 2 industries related to case studies in particular. Of course, with the pandemic crushing all the global events, some of these, like our favorite Comic-Con, would go away. No more of that in-person experience, unfortunately, for the past year. So for DC Comics, that meant traditional methods of outreach would not be happening for the foreseeable future. Their challenge was to attract fans to a center of a rich virtual experience. And they aimed to make this a global event that translated into 9 languages over a 24-hour period. And of course, to create a sense of FOMO, fear of missing out, the experience would go away after 24 hours. And considering that this went from an in-person event of 130,000 people descending on the convention center in LA to geek out over their favorite comic book characters, they were able to focus their multiverse web experience and garnish over an astonishing 22 million viewers globally during this short 24-hour window of time. Because they saw the value of this conference being delivered virtually, they've had plans to virtually reboot again in 2021 online this year as well. So why don't we take a look at another industry leader? In the case of Salesforce, their largest conference known to man is Dreamforce. And I wanted to highlight this one in particular for the reason that hybrid has existed pre-pandemic. Note that this stat that I'm giving you right now is in 2018, before a lot of this revolution happened. And I imagine a few of you listening to the presentation would agree that hybrid was a good format to extend your outreach to begin with, and more of those who could not sit physically in a convention center, you could extend to a broader audience externally. So going back to Dreamforce, this is a mega event, right? This is 170,000 people attending in San Francisco. For reference, my hometown in Burlington, Vermont, the largest city in the state, is just 40,000. So this number seems kind of insane to me. But what's impressive is that they had an online component, again, pre-pandemic, that saw 12.5 million views. And just this past year alone, when of course they had to pivot as well, they went completely virtual. Their full reach was powerful and pulled in over a whopping 200 million views. Again, we have a watchful eye as their ambitious launch this year into regional events globally as they plan to continue a hybrid future. So, and of course, envision, we track a ton of ROI, so we'd be happy to share our specific case studies when there's more time. But I thought these were really great public events that we wanted to bring attention to. So let me poll the audience here. How many virtual events have you attended since 2020? Looking at my list, I believe I'm up to about 30 so far. Many of them vary from heavy informational, inspiring events, aspirational, and I casually even joined free events held on new platforms, some very late evenings, just to see how that experience of using the platform would fare. And next thing you know, I'm on stage with a bunch of yoga instructors welcoming me to have a discussion with them. I never imagined that this would ever be a thing, much less during a pandemic. But I think that just shows you how many events evolved. And with newer platforms emerging, how smarter the world is getting and how smaller the world is getting as well. And when you're doing this poll, how about you drop in the chat what virtual event you've attended this past year that was incredibly amazing? So how about this? Let's step into some kind of statistics that you guys would love to hear. What's the ROI on digital engagement? Well, when we take a look at some of these stats, I think it would help you to understand. So one of the things that we recommend is that you communicate a differentiated value, because companies that provide an emotional connection with customers outperform sales growth of their competitors by a staggering 85%. The other thing you should do, or should consider doing, is fostering a community, a sense of belonging. 79% of customers feel that being involved in a company's online community would help them make them feel more involved with their brand. The other thing is that you want to personalize your experiences and content. Today's personalization leaders have found proven ways to drive up to 15% increases in revenue and 30% increases in marketing efficiency. Last, we want to make sure that the connectivity is seamless, because companies that have embraced digital transformation are 26% more profitable than their peers. So let's talk about budgeting. How do we do this? So with a lot of our clients, we have created some modeling to help them understand where they should invest their resources and budgets. So if we take a look at a $25 million budget for an in-person event, much of that investment goes into physical creation of said events. If you wanted to take that same budget and find an avenue for going purely virtual, many line items in your budget would probably be eliminated. And while it's still expensive to host your event online, you may find that you're spending about half as much. Costs where you have big savings in virtual are venue fees, hotel rooms, food board, signage, branding, travel, security, expo floors, all these that everyone is well aware of. However, when you do reduce, you do have to shift it somewhere. The physical infrastructure is now virtual. So about 2% of your budget will probably most likely go into that platform alone. But the other shift is also we have to create engaging content, which is not a bad thing. So you may find that you may need to increase your strategy, creative, and production by 10% to execute crafting an amazing experience for your audiences. And so what about a budget for a hybrid world? Well, we're estimating that, since maybe suggesting that maybe initially 75% of your audience can travel and the other 25 would be virtual, we find that a lower capacity, needs for a person, you should find some savings there. And hybrid events plus, you actually gain extra market share because of those who could not attend your event to begin with. Really, honestly, truly the best of both worlds. And we hear this a lot from our clients as well. What about sponsorship? Because it's a hot topic. This is a buzz. What do we do? Is virtual going to have that ROI? Well, honestly, when you have brands sponsorship that require face-to-face events, because they really want to connect with your key audiences, they want to increase brand awareness and improve brand perception. They want to generate leads and drive sales, and every single one of these goals remains achievable virtually. Considering virtual engagement creates a whole new paradigm, personalization, customization. A result of it is that sponsors can introduce their brands, products, and services to much more tightly defined audience segments. Data is a big thing, right? So data virtually engagements offer a plethora of it, and it provides visibility into key metrics, helping sponsors maximize their investment and make smarter decisions for the business. And then lastly, you have a deeper audience insight. Another benefit of all of this data, sponsors of virtual engagements will receive robust and hyper-specific insights about their target audiences. And so, how do I create an amazing experience on a platform that I'm selecting from? And a lot of you are probably looking at maybe not 230, but you're probably looking at 3 to 5. You're probably going to look at what are the ways to engage my audience, right? You want to make sure that your audiences are having an experience that is formatted for the virtual environments, but also not differentiating the event so that it is a online event or a physical event. It can be both. So you want to have a one event perspective with two experiences, because honestly, a physical experience dictates something different. A virtual audience experience doesn't mean that you can have two separate people experiencing the same thing. You could actually have your physical people attending the virtual experience online as well. They can participate with those communities. So that's how we try to think about that platform experience. And in like doing that, engaging your content with engaging or creating engaging content while engaging your audience is a big deal. One thing that we've been recommending for a lot of our clients is integrating the audience into the overall experience. The opportunities like we're seeing at Zuttle with XR staging and everything else, you can put people into your presentations. Why not, bring your polls to screen? Why not, again, quiz them, get some gamification going, but really tie the branding message and content with what you're presenting. It'll be a huge improvement on your content delivery mechanism. The other thing that we also know is that because you have a global audience, it's really hard to reach everyone at once. But that's actually something you have to consider in your programming. Some of it can be related to on-demand. So let's say that you have a first-time experience day one and you record some amazing sessions. You could reprise that for the audience later on, creating a semi-live experience, so to speak. and your audiences will still be engaged. They will still have access to chat. They will still utilize the digital ecosystem that you have developed and you pick for your platform to engage with their customers, sponsors, and the like. So following the sun may seem daunting, but it really is a really important strategy for maximizing your potential for your platform. And then going back to the fostering community thing, we want to make sure that you're utilizing the opportunities of not just chat, not just these ad hoc meetings, but maybe possibly utilizing I like to call it the chat roulette, the one-on-one, the speed dating that some of these platforms provide. The ability for you to connect people and engage with them in short duration spurts creates that Hall effect that we would get into an in-person experience. And then the other thing is that your sponsors, like I was saying before, they want to engage with your community. And because some of these platforms are getting more robust, you're getting conferencing built into the expo experience, you're able to engage your sponsors and your audience to get them the answers they need or to sell the products they want to sell. And then, of course, lastly, when you're looking at your platform, my big, huge thing going forward is untethering your audience. Now, untethering your audience may seem like a funny misnomer, but really what it is that it's a mobile-first approach. As you're looking at your platform, see if they have an app that is associated with the web browser version. And the reason why that's important is because as we go forward into online communications and we have one-on-one facilitated in mobile areas, we will have much broader engagement across all ecosystems, all communities. And so, one of the things that I've been seeing with 5G, for example, that's being rolled out, you're seeing investors like Verizon starting to invest in infrastructure in the stadiums because they know that in person, they're going to create some really unique experiences, but at the same time, they want to connect people outside of the stadium with an amazing experience. And we're going to see that infrastructure rapidly be invested in across all worlds or all regions. So speaking about mobile, here's a great question. How many unique mobile users are there in the world? I ask this because it's a very powerful platform. When you're trying to think about your events, we always talk about the secondary experience being on mobile. But the reality is that is the most personal device that people have. I don't know about you, I wake up in the morning with a mobile device in my hand, and I go to bed with it glowing in my face for another hour as I'm sorting through all my social media and forums or interesting articles and ways to stay connected with family and friends. So I imagine some of you probably got the answer, right? It's well over 5 billion unique mobile users around the world, which is astonishing. So think about your reach of what your virtual event can provide, because that ROI and that reach, as we discussed with Salesforce and a bunch of others, if you can tap into that world, you will find that your audience exponential will grow. So as I alluded to about, the in-person versus the virtual, finding the right platform that helps you lead into the event is a big thing. There used to be this idea of like drip campaigns and you would send emails and everything else. Why not throw them into the platform and create some on-demand engaging content? You start facilitating some of the conversations beforehand. You can get your sponsors and expo booths ready, get your audience prepared to be excited about the event, and then have a countdown to the 3-day experience. Obviously you would have your in-person program. Hi, everyone in Florida. And then you would have your virtual access. Hi, everyone in the Zoto platform. And then what you can do is that you can create an amazing dynamic program that resonates. And again, remember what I said, just because I'm in person doesn't mean I can't participate online. And so because programs like Zoto have an app that you can install on your phone, you can continue engaging in the community throughout the entire experience. And of course, once that experience is done, why not just throw your stuff online, put it on demand, make it semi-live even, as we were just discussing with Follow the Sun. But more importantly, it's a way to help continue the conversation beyond the events, really increasing audience engagement and the brand messaging that you have applied to your experience. So here are a few things I want to leave you with, and this will be the last thing before we go into Q&A. The importance of shifting our approach during this time right now, the time that I call the Great Pause, has forced us to reflect on what is important to us. How do we prioritize work? How do we prioritize the people and things and experiences in our lives? It is also a good time to reevaluate strategies for future successes in our events. Some of us were forced to pivot, and the ones who succeeded clearly embraced change. An event that was put on for the sake of doing so with a little bit of razzle-dazzle is no longer enough of a reason to host one, nor probably a good ROI, honestly. So what is your goal for putting on your events? Is it to inspire? Is it to move widgets at your company? Is it to connect people? Maybe just to entertain? Once you consider your goals, you can then backstep, consider the technologies now available to help them have them realized. And honestly, you may be surprised to find that some of the solutions will actually last way beyond the pandemic. The other thing that I want to point out, because I'm a content guy, I consume a lot of it, quality matters. Recently things shifted. Marketers are now investing differently, crafting compelling keynotes and stories that get users to lean in and consume messaging. It's a very noisy landscape today, and bad content will be filtered out. Per usual, Apple has set the bar for their keynotes during the new norm, right? I'm sure a lot of you have seen it, because what we've seen in their most recent events is they're making the entire experience an inspiring, exploratory 1-hour presentation in the most cinematic way possible. They flipped the script and allowed us to explore Apple Park as a stage, rather than presenting alone on the Steve Jobs Theater. Selfishly, I hope they continue this route because I find it incredibly curious, and I love how they transitioned from one product presentation to another. And speaking about engaging content, why not just Netflix and chill, right? So we find that many circumstances, our clients want to design conferences that have smartly switched to an on-demand structure. No longer are you bound to only a 3-day event, or else a facet of information that is shut off. It is now available for months or even a year-long campaign format. A lot of you, when you're looking for your platforms, you're finding that you have annual subscriptions, so take use of it. Because organizers are seeing the great benefit and greater activity as content is now made available over a longer period of time. TED-type conferences share a great wealth of knowledge and keep their videos online in perpetuity. So why not consider they're doing the same? And as you can imagine right now, I'm living on the edge because this is live. So if you're crafting in a sense of urgency or desire, why not tap into the FOMO factor for your event? It should always be live. Too many companies find comfort in pre-scanned content, which it takes a bit of the fun away, honestly. So audiences love a sense of risk and the unknown and wanting an engagement. Instead of being fearful, be fearless. Wow people with some level of integrated audience participation. And lastly, I cannot tell you how crazy this data gold rush is. Every week that passes as of late, I continue to ponder how we're in the golden age of data collection and what it means for us. Over 4 billion people worldwide engage socially online, with 67% of the world using mobile phones. This year alone saw an astounding 12% increase in social media adoption. Today, during the pandemic, with events moving to an online platform, it should be a no-brainer to ride this wave. More importantly, what are you measuring? And I'm not just talking about the quantitative data. I'm also alluding to the qualitative data. What is your audience actually saying in social media forums? And with that said, I would like to thank you all for the opportunity to present. And I hope you found this engaging. I'm going to end my screen share. Thanks for the thumbs up, guys. This is what I love. Oh my God, it's Eileen Page, the Eileen Page. Hi, everyone. I want to introduce a fantastic person stage, Eileen. Eileen, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Ray. Hi, everyone. Great presentation, Ray. I head up our digital practice here at Envision. I haven't seen any questions come through, but we're happy to have you guys hit us up. Ray touched on all the large number of digital experiences we've done since March of 2020. We're seeing our clients start to go back to in-person events starting as soon as September, which everyone is incredibly excited about, but still wanting to keep that digital thread ever present. We have some hybrid experiences planned for November and beyond. And as soon as we get something locked down, it seems like the world changes and we have to adjust again, but we're okay with that. So happy to answer any questions or share any issues that we're kind of noodling over right now.
So what I honestly love about these platforms, and huge thanks to Subtle, like one of the big things I know, Eileen, you probably resonate with, is when Teams finally shifted to emojis. You know, I've been populating her chats with GIFs, by the way. I cannot get away from GIFs and emojis. You know, oh, here we go. Here's the first question. What do you believe are the largest challenges or opportunities in a hybrid? Eileen, would you like to take that?
Sure. I think it's really just the ever-changing nature of the landscape that we have going on right now. We have some data on, things in the US are looking pretty good. More people could get vaccinated. We have more supply than demand currently, but it's literally a whole different world once you get outside of the US. We're looking at some countries, Asia and India, for example, who may not achieve our level of vaccination until people are saying 2024, 2025. So when we're thinking about global meetings, that obviously has a huge impact. I think regardless of your audience makeup, we try to come up with contingency plan upon contingency plan. I mentioned we have some hybrid events coming up in November. One in particular, it's around a 4,000 person audience, and the client was anticipating about a quarter of that being on site with the rest being remote. That's actually flipped. So we have to take a look at what's our budget and how are we spending our dollars. We, of course, always want to be very cognizant of how we're responsible stewards of our clients' money. And so if there's going to be more people on site, let's shift maybe some dollars over from the platform planning, for example, to additional on-site activations. It could change 4 more times between now and November. So it's really, the key is really being agile, keeping our fingers on the pulse and making sure we have, if not a plan B, probably a plan C through F and beyond. I think that's probably the biggest challenge is just the uncertainty of it all.
Well, I think the other challenge too is that when we have a lot of these engagements that have been just one-to-many, right? We're just presenting to an audience and you're not really getting engagement. Everyone is now shifting to the one-on-one, which it's actually honestly fantastic. That's where you get the best ROI. So we're trying to help our leaders understand is that in the past year, we've been experiencing content in very large droves. There are like presentations that used to be like 6 hours and they kept the same format, and that's exhausting. We all love bite-sized content. So we've been trying to really think about the strategy of delivering shorter bits of content and allowing some of that interaction in between. And that is part of the adoption process we've been trying to track with some of our clients. So we have another question. What percentage of event organizers do you feel are ready to adopt hybrid solution, and is pricing a big concern?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know if I have exact percentages. As Ray mentioned, we're in the data gold rush, but everything is changing so rapidly that there's not a whole lot of continuous benchmarks that we're able to draw upon. I would say the percentages are different for a US-based audience versus a global audience. We're seeing our clients with global audiences putting an indefinite hold on their in-person gatherings, at least bringing people from other countries into the US. And I think we'll continue to see that probably for the near future. I think for US-based audiences, though, particularly with our internal focused, like if we're doing a sales meeting, for example, or a product launch, they're increasingly willing to adopt the hybrid the hybrid solution rather. The interesting thing about this is that clients, either way, whether they're doing a hybrid event, whether they're going to fully in person, which we are seeing starting in the fall, or whether they're choosing to kind of play it safe and stay fully virtual, they're always looking for justification to their audience to explain why they've made those decisions. And so, maybe it's a safer play to do virtual, and they're getting complaints from their attendees who want to see each other in person and have a drink at the lobby bar together. So I think regardless, it's important to take a very thoughtful approach and to have those kind of points of justification, both for your own purposes, but so that you can communicate that out to the audience. Hey, we've made a decision on your behalf. Here were the decision-making factors, just so that people understand how, that there is quite a bit of careful planning that's going into these events, whether they're live, in person, remote, some combination of the two.
And we are also, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Actually,
I just saw another question come in, but if you have anything to add, go ahead, Ray.
No, I think the other thing that we've been noticing is that some of the clients will see the big sticker price tag. Some of these platforms can range between free to upwards to $100,000, and then of course there are hidden costs. So sometimes there's streaming and stuff like that. But that aside, that sticker shock is a big deal. But really, what we help them do is like, look, this is digestible. If you have 4 events over the year rather than one big one, you do actually break up the cost, and you're not paying for a venue fee every single time. So that's another way that we help clients to rationalize the spending. And plus, with larger organizations, if you invest in that platform, you might have other pockets of your organization that could benefit from it. And so that's where we're trying to get the ROI there too. We got, I think, time for one more question. So top 3 things enterprises should consider when they're evaluating a hybrid platform. Oh, Eileen, do you talk about this a lot?
I think mobile first is incredibly key. I love Ray's phrase, untether your audience. I think it's really important to give people opportunities to digest content in different ways. So I would say that's huge. I think some of the planning in terms of what are the hybrid tools that platforms are offering, are they taking into account that there's probably always going to be a percentage of your audience who is not comfortable traveling, whether it's for health reasons or other. The digital threads that we've been pulling through for years, but particularly over the past year, of course, are still going to be incredibly important, if not more so, moving forward. So taking that into account. And then, oh boy, I need a third one, Ray. I think price, of course, staying competitive. And I would say the third, well, now I'm on the fourth, so I'm overshooting, but I think the level of personalization is incredibly important, no matter what type of audience you have or what experience you're trying to create.
Yeah, hands
Anything
down.
to add, Ray?
Mobile first is the big one. You guys saw that big stat. It's just insane. It's insane how technology has really rapidly changed in the past year. And actually, the most important thing I would also say too to consider is that some people they used to, back in 2018, only have like this one player had this one thing, this one player had this one thing, and now you kind of have to like engage somehow and mix them all up. My recommendation is look for a platform that actually does all the things, like ticks all the boxes. Not all of them will, but a lot of them do it very well. And that just makes our jobs easier as organizers. Plus, the other thing that we've been doing is that we've been helping the client understand, train them in the platform so that when they take it back to their offices, they could potentially handle some of that organization themselves. And I think we're probably at time. So, Eileen?
We have some good questions in the chat about live versus simulive, and this is always certainly a hot debate. We have a loose formula at Envision of 90% pre-recorded just for the safety of it, 10% live. That of course fluctuates one way or the other. But Ray, I believe you're going to be in a breakout session after this, so I would encourage those whose questions we weren't able to get to join Ray in his session following this one. We also have a booth on the expo floor, so happy to this was great discussion, happy to talk more and answer more questions.
Yes, thank you everyone for listening in, and feel free to continue the conversation in the room. Appreciate it.
Thanks everyone.